because it messes up sometimes. Okay, I think we're live. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I'm really honored to have my guests on today. I have with me some real experts in the field of the Anunnaki. They go deep in their research, and who I have with me is Sasha Lessin, Dr. Sasha Lessin, and his wife Janet Lessin. Dr. Lessin, co-author with his wife Janet, Kira Ninmah Lessin, of the they're co-authors of the Anunnaki Gods No More, Anunnaki Legacy of the Gods, Anunnaki False Gods, Great Relations, and How to Really Love a Woman. Sasha holds a master's in counseling and a Ph.D. in anthropology from UCLA. Dr. and Sasha and Janet host experts in ancient aliens, extrabiological entities, contact, ufology, conspiracy, tantra, and relationship counseling. And I also have with me Glenn Bouge. Glenn's an Anunnaki expert. He's a lawyer. He's a nutritional historian. He's an Olympian and the author of the books, the ISIS series. Born in Toronto, Glenn Bouge attended Villanova University, majoring in history and classics. He earned an All-American honors both in athletically and scholastically, along with the NCAA postgraduate scholarship. He competed for Canada in the 76 Olympics and was inducted into Villanova Hall of Fame. And I put a link in there for Glenn's books, the ISIS series. And I want to give them all a big welcome to the show. Janet, Dr. Lessin, and Glenn, thank you for coming on. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're interested so much in the subject.
All right, so I really enjoyed you guys' presentation on Jesus and Enki and the wedding, and I was hoping that we could get into some of that tonight. It's really fascinating.
It is. So where do you want us to start?
I really feel like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm so used to hosting. Where do you want us to start, Rob?
Well, I really feel like when Gerald Clark was talking about the Anunnaki, he was getting a lot of his information from you guys. I really truly believe that. Because a lot of the stuff that Gerald was saying and a lot of the stuff that you guys say, it's similar. Like about how Jesus was Enki and that Enki, that Jesus got married and it was with Ninmah. Maybe we could start there. Is that a good place to start, or?
That's a great place to start. I just wanted to say, Gerald and we almost did a conference together, and it fell through for some reason. So that was sad because that was years ago. I forget even what year it was. How long? When did he pass? I know he's no longer with us.
Do you think he just died in 2020 or 2021?
Oh, I didn't know it was that late. Yeah. So, okay, who wants to start with? How about you, Glenn? What's your logic behind why Jesus is Enki and Mary is Ninmah?
If we start with the wedding at Cana in the Gospel of John, you've got to go back to how Jerusalem was founded. And so Abraham, of course, was in ancient Iraq. And in the Bible, it says that his father, Terez, was worshiping Nanarsin. And I was doing research with a gal in Sweden in 2011, and she was counting down, the genealogy down to Nanarsin, from Anu down to Nanarsin. And I said, stop the show. That's the God of Abraham's father. And so what Enlil, or Yahweh, had done was had lured Abraham and apparently his father Terez away from Nanarsin and over into Jerusalem from Iraq to help found a new race of people, right? He was lured with land and heritage that his children would fill all over the world. Well, Jerusalem, according to Margaret Starbird, who wrote the book, she's in Portland, Oregon. She wrote the book, Woman with the Alabaster Jar. She says that the of Salem, or Jerusalem, Janet, the original name was Ariel. And Ariel, think the Little Mermaid, right? And the wedding at the end. Ariel means that she will come there dressed as a bride. So that was my first clue that Jerusalem is not the land of the Golden Dome of Muslim tradition. It's not the home of the temples, the three temples of Jerusalem, of the Jewish people, Israeli people. It is originally a wedding. And that's the great wedding at Cana that was forbidden by King Anu because Ninmah, if you know your folks in the audience know their Anunnaki history, Ninmah had to marry the half brother, Enlil, the dashing military commander, head of the Earth mission to get the gold, or she had to marry the scientific guy, Enki, right? The marriage to the half sister and brother.
Mhm.
So at the wedding at Cana was set by Enki and always planned over thousands of Earth years. It's not too long for them, right? 1 year for them is 3,500 Earth years. So he was spending, 2,000 years from the time of Abraham to the wedding at Cana in 33 AD or so. He was spending, 2/3 of a year, like normal people do, planning this wedding. So that's why I say that that royal wedding was forbidden because Ninmah and Enlil had a child out of wedlock, Ninurta,
Mhm.
and for that embarrassment of the royal family of King Anu, they Black Madonna Ninmah would never marry, and 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 Enlil appears in the area of Cairo, and Jerusalem's just outside of Cairo. He appears as Osiris the Black, and that's of course the Prairie of Sion, Set Enoch, Set Enki, Isis, Osiris, and Nephthys. So now you've got these two characters whose names have been blackened by their careless lovemaking. Who knows what went on? And so now you've got a full scenario of why Jerusalem. I don't want to go too far aside to the fact that there weren't very many Jewish people in the area of Israel. And the Hebrews, when you say Hebrews, Hebrews are the black-headed people of Africa. The white people who call themselves Israelis really came from the Caucasus Mountains. So the area where Abraham, right over toward the northeast, place where Abraham came from, the white people came in after Abraham was brought into Jerusalem. So it's been quite a muddled history, but now we're kind of clearing the clouds. So
Not on a side note, Glenn, but what are the Aryan people? I know like Robert Seffer talks about like the Aryan people and like their migration into these areas. What does that have anything to do with all this?
you've got to be careful with the term Aryan because in the time of Hitler, and this is not anything to do with Hitler, I don't think. Who's ever come out of Nazi Germany with this concept that the Swedes and the Norse people, the Viking type people, that Dr. Lessin actually reminds me of. That image on the screen is more of a somebody from the Viking area. The Aryan people were in Pakistan. So, like we think of the Hebrews as the Jews, as the Israelis, Israelis are people who lived in the northern half of that area. There was Israel and Judah to the south. Okay, and Jerusalem is in Judah, and then Israel is above that. The Hebrews are black-headed people, and the Aryans came out of Pakistan. Now, whether they were like Pakistani people today, I don't think anybody's too sure. We do know that the sacred sexual secrets that Dr. Lessin and Janet are expert in We know that that came out of Iran, and that's Ahura Mazda, and the people called the Dravidians, and the Dravidians were sailors. The house Jews. Now we're into the house Jews. The house Jews are the money changers for the royal families all over Europe, and those house Jews came initially from Mongolia, where Genghis Khan had kicked their fanny after warning them several times to knock it off with the interest lending. They were kicked all the way to Poland, the house Jews. And the house Jews were the ones who funded the sailors to go from Iran through India and across the Pacific Ocean to South America. And as they went through India, they picked up the sacred sexual secrets of Inanna, who wanted nothing to do with the fight at the wedding in Cana. She wanted to get the me discs from Enki and get the hell out of Dodge and establish her own domain in India. And of course, she brought the sacred sexual practices to the mines of South Africa, where the Anunnaki were revolting because they're a water-based people being forced to the mountains to get the gold. So the Dravidians would have picked up this sacred sexual practices. Now, in that area, mixed in there are the Aryans. And what they know, I haven't really come across very much knowledge of what their background is. Go.
Okay. Sasha, do you have anything to say?
My mic was muted.
A few things. A long time ago, before there was a vast settlement, Jerusalem or Mount Moriah was just the place where the Anunnaki kept their mission control for the Sinai Peninsula, for their spaceport there. And so that a whole lot of the history of the area is who controls this area with the it's partly the area that gets bombed out in the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and the south bank of the Salt Sea, which became the Dead Sea. So Jerusalem for a long time has been this place where under the ground there's this mission control, and that's a big thing. And just rushing to Jesus a little bit is in Jesus's day, you couldn't be a anointed rabbi like he was unless you were married. That's part of the deal. And so that whatever else he is, he's in a scene. He may be Enki, and he may be something even bigger than all of that, like an archetype in all of our hearts. Actually, Jesus is that also, but he was also a rabbi. He was a married man who was acclaimed by the people of Israel. This is the person who's our leader, our spiritual leader, and he's saying, "Get out of this Yahweh system. These guys are faking us out. There's some real stuff, and it has to do with love and acceptance." And so that there's that level of truth, but there's the all overwhelming evidence that Jesus was indeed in a scene, and he was in that wedding of Canaan was his wedding. And what Jesus did that was so different is instead of saying, I only the anointed big shots can have wine, and then regular people can have purified water. Jesus said, "No, heck with that. They're all my guests. God loves us, everybody. I love everybody. Hey, go get some more wine." And Mary, his mother, said, "You do what Jesus said." And so that's the wedding, whether it's Enki or not. And there's a lot of evidence that it is Enki too. But at a minimum, it was Jesus who was the anti-establishment person who said, "Go within, feel the love you have for other human beings, take care of the sick, worship women, especially worship women." And part of the secret of the Anunnaki long life was that they ate so much monatomic white gold that it came out in their females' Amrita, and that was all part of how the high that they got from the sexual rituals that they did.
Which are not in the Catholic faith. unfortunately. I looked for them for 40 years. Talk to Lessin. There's much going on.
Mhm.
All right. Where do you want to go?
Janet, what's your take?
You know, poor Ninmah got, like all women, she got the shaft. She was blackened. She couldn't marry her beloved. She loved Enki from the beginning. So finally, after thousands of years, the wedding. I wish I would have known we were going to focus on that. There's wonderful pictures I could have had up, but I can't get them right now. We'll have to do that in the future. I'll bring the pictures in. But so she finally got her wish, and she married her beloved, and they had a wonderful romance. They fought like other couples. They broke up for a while. Enki almost died, eating her. She had a garden that she was testing the destiny of the plants and what their uses and purposes, what they were for. And Enki was just a character, and he went in there and started eating her plants, and he got very sick, and he almost died. And so she left. She was mad, so mad at them. He had sex with her daughter, her granddaughter, her great granddaughter, her great granddaughter. He just kept breeding with her descendants and eating her plants. So she left, and so he almost died. And this character called the Fox had to seek her out, and she was back at the nurses and her lab, and they said, "Come quick, he's going to die." So when she went back, there's an interesting story where every time they had sex, she got pregnant and gave birth to another child. So she had 9 children. So they really knew how to make up. And then they, lived happily ever after for a while. And they've had a very complicated relationship. So apparently they resolved things at the wedding at Cana. And it looks like they traveled around the world. That's what Glenn and Sasha and I have been figuring out. Where did they go from there, right? And so there's they went over to South America.
We can back up to getting from the story from going from Iran, ancient Sumer, into the Jerusalem, getting ready for the wedding. They appear in Cairo. Now, Jerusalem is only an outpost. They've never found any King Solomon, King David, the greatest kings of all time. They have found none of that in Jerusalem, some podunk little town, mostly a wedding destination. Think of Mexico, or I don't know, right? Acapulco, or somewhere you go to get married, or Las Vegas. Think of Las Vegas. So so far from LA. So because they became the pharaohs in the Scion, they were, as I said, Set, Enoch, Isis, Osiris, and Nephthys. And so what happened was, like you just said, Janet, right? Osiris rapes the wife of Enki, who's Cana. Cana had birthed the first Eve, and Isis birthed the first Adam back 200,000 years ago. And now here they are in Cairo, and so when you assault a man's wife, in an Anunnaki way, down come the pants, out come the knives, and Enki cut off the penis, rightfully so, I don't know, and kills Osiris on a Friday, and Isis raises him on a Sunday. Sound familiar? And then the craziest thing happens after Isis resurrects Ninmah, right? Resurrects Enlil, Osiris. She leaves with the assassin, and they head off. Set Enki, and Isis, Ninmah, head off first to Jerusalem, where Enki introduces Isis as the woman of the tree, the woman of the DNA, in the Bible called Asherah or Astarte. And when Enlil finds this out, that they're telling people that Enlil's not the only god, Osiris is not the only god, right? Osiris was dominating Jerusalem at the time. When they found out that they were telling people this, they were kicked out. Solomon was kicked. He didn't die. David had this big funeral in the Bible, but Solomon just kind of grabbed the Phoenicians next flight out of town. And the Phoenicians, he ordered them to take them from Memphis to Greece. Now show the photograph you showed before of Zeus. At the,
Okay. Okay, you want me to go back to? Am I go back?
oh, you've
Yeah.
got all of them. This is great.
Uh,
The visuals
I
really.
like I said, I got carried away.
Who is
Melusine.
Melusine? Who is
Melusine is one of the children of Enki, who came out from the sea and descended. She married Meravius. There we go. It's the key. Saw the star there.
So she is a descendant of this rape that happened. She was Enki in his little Aquaman outfit, and he liked to get women pregnant. He was a sexy, or he is a sexy dude. He's still probably out.
You can see, back in the Garden of Eden, Janet, right? Eve, who we know from the Geographic Project, National Geographic, 2006, using DNA of women, we know that Eve existed. We know she existed in 200,000 BC. We know the lineage didn't go up a tree, to a monkey. It just stops. And Enki had sex with the two daughters of Eve. That's like many men. That's what he's after. You just had the shot there of there he is. There's Zeus.
Yeah. So we'll go through if you want to explain the slides to us. This is what you said.
So this picture, folks, is from a book called The Serious Mystery by a British author named Robert Temple. And when he had the book in manuscript form, Dr. Lessin, guess who breaks into his apartment? The CIA steals his manuscript about this planet, right, out around the Serious Mystery, whatever that is. Luckily, Robert was smart enough to keep a couple copies in safety deposit boxes, so there was no harm done. But imagine my surprise when I come across this photograph of Zeus with King Solomon's Asherah, folks. There it is in front of you. I feel like Groucho Marx. You're going to believe me or you're lying eyes.
There it is.
There it is, right? There's the end of the tree. There's the first Adam. Pardon?
Who's the little person?
That's Adam.
Oh, that's Adam. Okay, so you see the size difference.
The Anunnaki were about 15 feet tall.
Right.
That's a midget. No offense to midgets, but that's that's a man who's like 5 feet tall back in the day.
Right.
And here's a man who's, almost twice that size. And there's the woman of the tree. But look, my son pointed out when we first saw this. Look, Dad, the bottom half of the tree is fish scales. And so now we're into Jesus is not his name. Enki's name in our language is Enki, Enoch. When he got kicked out or left with ISIS from Cairo, Osiris changed his name from Satan, Enki, to Satan. That's the root of the thing. So he goes to to Greece, first to Jerusalem, then he goes on with Asherah, and he appears in Greece as Jesus Christos. Folks, I'm a Greek scholar. That's not his real name. I don't call Janet Hawaii. How are you, baby? Right? I don't call her Hawaii. Her real name's Janet. Jesus Christos is a royal name having to do with the Christos, about the anointing on the head and the feet at the table. And then in the bedroom, of course, there's other anointings going on in the ancient bridal rites of Sumer. So here we have photographic evidence from Robert Temple. Sirius Rex goes around Sirius and our sun every 3,500 years. So we're now starting to link together the connections with this image of Jesus, and that woman of the tree is known as Athena. And once they get the royal bloodline established in Greece, they then act as they did all over the world. They're fish gods. The tree has fish scales on it. They swam up the River Jordan. They weren't born there. And the Bible says so. Jesus came from over there by the water, right? Bethlehem is the temple of Dendera in Egypt, in Cairo. And there's another smaller Bethlehem in Jerusalem, outside Jerusalem. But so now they go back to get married at the wedding at Cana. They come up the River Jordan as Jesus Christos and his dove, which everyone they want us to believe is the Holy Spirit, whatever the heck that means. But no, they went up the River Jordan to have this long planned wedding by Enki.
So on the subject of the fish gods, so this is all this thing about Melusine, who gets raped, beginning the Merovingians gets raped, and it's a foundation of the Merovingians.
Again, please. Sorry, Janet. Who got raped? Melusine got raped by whom?
Well, it says Merovingius raped by the Quinatar. I mean, I've seen this story. It's all linked to Enki, who's Neptune, the sea, Lord of the Seas.
Poseidon in Greece. In Greece,
right? So anyway, so I was unpacking all this. So let me go forward. So what? And I've been studying Melusine because Melusine is one of my ancestors. I actually found her in my tree. I found Fulk V, Count of Anjou. So I found this person in my tree. I'm doing my genealogy. So I'm a descendant of this rape here, apparently. But so are we all, right? That leads to the Plantagenets. So I'm part of all these English monarchs. And, it's so this is a real person. You can link it in your tree and, in the, what do you call that? Ancestry.com. So anyway.
Ancestry, DNA.
Yeah. So I do Ancestry and all the other genealogy. So these, you're talking about the fish people. Let me go forward here. Here's the fish people. So, and I'll go through the story. She was a magical being. She was in the forest bathing, and one of the kings came by. I think it's called Ramadan, and he wanted to marry her. And she said, "Okay, you can marry me as long as you don't come on Saturdays. You have to leave me alone every Saturday." Well, what happened is she would have to go back to her fish form, and she had a secret bath. And she said, "Also, you can't be with me when I give birth to our children." So this is you can research this. It's all over. There's all this art that goes back hundreds of years about this mythology, but apparently, so it doesn't stop with that. She also, when she was discovered and outed after her king, the lover, she had a bunch of children by him. She got angry one day. Here, she's a background for the Starbucks mermaid. That's where we get the Starbucks.
Yeah, she's out of Dodge. Wow.
Yeah, this is a real person. That is an Anunnaki that you can link, like you said earlier, that somebody was linking something. Yeah, you can go back and find Jesus in your tree. So anyway, she also shapeshifted into a tail like a naga. She had wings. She got so upset when her husband betrayed her and he outed her in the court that she shapeshifted in front of everybody and she flew out the window. And she's an immortal being, so she would come back at the death of the king, and she would scream like a banshee. Here she is. There's the death of the king, and these are ancient from 1525, and all the royals of Europe, and they love to link into this. They say, yes, we are descended from Melusine. And there was a series called The White Queen and the White Princess, which is about Edward the Fourth and Elizabeth of York. And Elizabeth of York's grandmother says in the movie, yes, I'm a descendant of Melusine. Anyway, so this all links into, what was really going on. These were dragons. They were mer people. They were nagas. They were ancestors. Yeah. So that's that whole story.
How does this tie into the Merovingians? How does this tie into the Merovingians? Whoever wants to
go back. Okay. Let me look at this. It was the Arcadian legacy that was responsible for the mysterious sea beast, the Bestia Neptunus, as symbolically defined in the Merovingian ancestry. Anyway, he is the sea lord, whose symbol was a fish, as he was the traditional symbol of Jesus from Lawrence Gardner. It says the page. So there's this whole story.
Bloodline of the Holy Grail.
Yeah, and so it bloodline of the Holy Grail. Yeah, so it links in, and then that was how these people say, yes, we are the offspring of this rape with the Quinatar, who is Enki. So Enki came back. Hey, Enki liked to reinforce his genetics periodically. So this is a habit of his. He fathered Noah. He did this all the time. He wasn't required to be monogamous. When you look at the White Queen and the White Princess, which is about the War of the Roses, the queen kind of gets a little bit jealous at a point, and King Edward said, "You knew I wasn't ever going to be monogamous with you, really? Did you expect that?" Because it was their duty to spread their seed and spread the royals throughout. They always fathered a bastard line as well as the royal line because they were ensuring their genetic success, right? If they killed off all the direct royals, they could always go to the bastard line.
Jen, isn't it more that Enlil was given lordship to stop the fighting between Enki? Because Enki was the lord of the earth first, right? He came down to the Tigris Euphrates first with 50 Argonauts to find the gold. Then they sent Enlil down. So to stop the fighting between the siblings, Enlil is the lord of the land, except for Ethiopia and South Africa. And Enki is the lord of the waters, Poseidon.
Right.
He's getting his sperm, isn't he? He's getting his sperm all over the land, wherever he can go.
Wherever he can put it, he puts it.
Wherever the party is.
So he wasn't just like his wife wasn't just Cana then and Ninmah. He had many. He had relations with the daughters of Eve. You're saying, and many other women.
The daughters of Eve and Enki became Homo sapien. Adam and Eve were just Homo sapien. They're pretty good, right? But once they put the sperm in from a lord from the royal bloodline of Planet X, they became Homo sapien. Boom, like that in the fossil record. And then because you have to marry your half sister, you get to have consorts. And so his wife is Damkina, and she would accept Ninmah, whose royal title, the Magdalene, married at Cana, the Great One. He's allowed to then have concubines or even to marry them, which is what occurred at the wedding at Cana. So now he has 2 wives, correct?
Right. Remember, the Anunnaki were not monogamous.
Right.
But it's even more than that. If you really look at this in depth, there's an inherent assumption that people whose genealogies tie to certain royals are better than other human beings in a way that lets the people that think they're superior oppress and exploit those who aren't. And it's a mistake that's built into the thought of the Anunnaki who gave us our culture. But if you are understanding the deeper levels of consciousness, that everything is a balance and how everything works, you realize that every soul has its own destiny, and every song is to be sung, and that this hierarchy is just an artifact the Anunnaki and their ideas that some people are inherently better because of their genes. And I can tell you as a professional anthropologist that that's nonsense. Every person has got their worth and their genius.
Sure, epigenetics, your thoughts become expressed in your cells. But if we can go back to Merovius, the mistake made by Holy Blood, Holy Grail, Henry Lincoln, was that Merovius was taken out of the lineage, Rob.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you can't have a sea beast as grandpa and be respected on the land. And so it became more of a myth. But Lawrence Gardner, to his credit, before he died, he went back and put Merovius back in. And Janet's right. Merovius had sex with the Sicambrian Franks. Now, this is the line of David that came out of what we said before. Enki left Osiris and took off with his concubine Isis and his wife Damkina, known as Nephthys in Egyptian language. The threesome takes off for Jerusalem, and Jesse, the fish god. That's why Janet is so good in her research. Jesse, the father of David. Nobody knows this. The father of this shepherd boy. Okay, many meanings to the word shepherd boy, but this little wee runt of a shepherd boy, David. No. Look at David. There's a statue of David in Italy, right? A strapping man. So David's father is Jesse, the fish god. Now,
right.
What that never mentioned in the Bible, never mentioned in the lineages, and he sires David, and then he Anunnaki way he marries David's daughter and becomes the son-in-law King Solomon. And Ralph Ellis's work called Solomon Falcon of Sheba, he traces, Rob, the Egyptian pharaohs list and the Jewish Israeli kings in a different language. It's the same people. You can see it in the list that he does. It's the same people. Solomon's name in Egyptian is Sheshonk. He's Pharaoh Sheshonk, whose name means shh. I have secret knowledge. That's eventually the shining happens. The shining happens, right? When Enki appeared to Eve, and she's looking at Eve. Eve's looking at Enki. He's pretty good. And Leo, the military guy, imagine Dr. Lessin in armor, right? How attractive that would be, right? But she goes with the shining Ha-Nakash. Enki's name in ancient language is Ha-Nakash, the shining one. It's not serpent, because serpent
doesn't mean serpent, Glenn?
Serpent is the noun.
Oh, sorry.
The author, the big scholar, was named Michael Heiser. He just died a couple of years ago. At length on the phone, he said there's no mistake. Ha-Nakash, right? In ancient Hebrew, or you've got only consonants, and Dr. Lessin would add in his vowels to make it his way, UCLA way, right? I would add in my vowels to make it Villanova way, and now here we go, right? So he says there's no way, there's no doubt that word is not the noun serpent; it's the adjectival shining one. And remember when we see Jesus shining on the side of the mountain, right? Then he tells the disciples, shh, keep the light body secret for now. So as Solomon Sheshonk, he's got secret knowledge, sacred sexual knowledge, right? He's now going to leave from there. And David's line through Solomon went to the Sicambrian Franks, where Enki as the sea beast Merovius. Janet's exactly right. And Janet and I have never talked about this in our long relationship, 10 years. Here she comes. I haven't seen you guys in about 2 years. Here she comes, and she just said it boldly just now. Enki was the father of the Merovingian kings. He is Merovius in the 4th century. Okay. And then those children go become the Merovingian kings who are killed.
That's
Right.
right.
Dagobert was murdered in the forest of Satanicum, stabbed high. Go backwards to the Arnolfini portrait. What about Arnolfini portrait? There. So this secret of Merovius, because when Merovius died, the Vatican, through Pepin, threw the power to the Carolingians, and their top guy was Charlemagne. And now that takes off. That line takes off all the way to World War I. Yeah. Meanwhile, the old Merovingian king line is still hanging around as the Austrian-Hungary Empire. And the secret knowledge from Jerusalem was kept by the Cathars in France, and the top of the mountain of the Languedoc, and the Vatican weren't having any of that Magdalene stuff around here, right? The goddess who created the first Adam, right? That's who the Magdalene is. Yeah. So they assaulted in 1244. They assaulted up on the mountain. Took them several months to get up there, but the Knights Templar took off with the genealogy and buried it at Rennes-le-Chateau. Right. And when the parchments were found in 890, who shows up? The Archduke of the Austro-Hungary Empire is visiting to figure out this ancient lineage language. So here's the Arnolfini portrait, right? The most mysterious painting in the world. It's alleged to be painted in 1434, because if you can zoom in there on the mirror, just above the mirror, there are some characters.
Right.
But what they say is 1434, the 3, Rob, the 3, like a small Z or Z, right?
Right, looks like a Z, yeah.
Z 3 goes below the line. And my daughter, who's a journalist, goes, hey, Dad, come on. Only letters go below the line, right? Numbers go above. They're not allowed below the line. Numbers go above. So for a long time, they thought 1434 was a year. And I say, no, that's Jese. That's Jesse. That's Jesus Jesse in the mirror. Now, here we see in this painting, which is around 1434, painted by, I'm suggesting, was painted by Enki, right? Who was known as eventually as Count Saint Germain. That's a whole nother story, but Count Saint Germain was a very famous painter. And folks, Da Vinci, 200 years later, gets the closest to this painter. Right? This painting is the first oil painting ever done. It is picture perfect. Okay? It's a photograph.
Right.
No mistakes. Now we see them holding their hands together. You see them holding their hands there in the middle?
Yeah.
You see there she's wearing the Magdalene green. Mm-hmm. Okay? This is the wedding at Cana. That's Jesus, because there's a something called the Mandelion cloth. This is in New York Times. I found this research. Uh-huh. That picture of Jesus right there, in the sallow kind of guy, that picture is exactly from the Mandelion cloth from about the 4th century, the first image they ever had of Jesus Christos. So
well, you notice he has an elongated face. And the Anunnaki have these elongated faces. And then if you look in the mirror reflection, they're not holding hands anymore, but they're holding.
Hey, you stole that from my book 5. Who told you that?
I'm just looking right now.
Right now, folks.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Folks, this happened to me in a hair salon in New Jersey. I'm in the hair cuttery, and the hair cutter says, Glenn, I see things in paintings nobody else sees. And I said, okay, who are you? Okay, fine, go ahead. And I sent her the painting, Janet, and she called me that night, and she says to me, look in the mirror, which is the middle of the painting. It's the focal point because it's convex. Their hands in the photograph where they're holding hands in the mirror, because it's a convex mirror, the hands are going forward. And she says, Glenn, the hands, Janet, excellent, are no longer touching.
Right.
They're putting something in the belly of the pregnant woman in blue.
Now, I found they said that this is supposed to be Jan van Eyck.
Jan van Eyck. Jan van Eyck.
Jan van Eyck. Yeah. Right. Jan van Eyck. Yeah.
Yes.
That's who's.
Jan van Eyck was Enki. There's a history made up about him. If you look back there, right, Johannes was here. In the back there, Johannes est fort. Right, that phrase in the back there on the wall behind the mirror.
Johannes, yeah.
Oannes, the fish god of the ancient scholars.
Oannes,
the fish god of Babylon.
That's great.
Was here doing a little house painting.
So if you look through history, you can find where Enki has been here. Remember, Frodo or Waldo was here, right? Yeah. So
Enki was here.
Enki was Jan van Eyck. He was Leonardo da Vinci, and I think he was Merlin, and I think he was John Dee. I mean, we keep finding him everywhere.
Yes.
He changes his identity.
He promised to do this. He said he would never leave us.
I'll never leave you.
Enlil was snooty, right? He was the military commander. He's not going to mix with the hominids. I mean, Enki's having at it, right? Right, Dr. Lessin? He's having at it on weekends, Tuesday mornings. He's having a great time in costume. I don't say he was Shakespeare. I don't say he was Da Vinci. I don't have any proof.
I don't. It's just like you can see a pattern, though, because you said his art was like Da Vinci, and there was no one else like that in 200 years or something.
Da Vinci got closest to this painting. This is the only picture perfect. And the 4 scholars were on BBC, I don't know, 2010, and they said, we give up. We don't know what's in the painting. So I called the one guy up at UMass, University of Massachusetts in Boston. I called him on the phone, and I told him it was Enki. He goes, don't ever call me again. And I was saying, look, you admitted that you don't know, so how do you know I don't know? Now that mirror, now watch what's happening here. We've got the birth of Adam and Eve in the mirror, right? They're putting the fertilized egg in the fertilized ovum in the stomach of the woman in blue, Cana, birthing the Eve. We've got the wedding at Cana at 30 AD, and that is the Stargate. Because, Dr. Lessin, look in the mirror. The reflection of the man with the black hole, the hat's a black hole he's wearing. Suddenly in the mirror, what color is the hat on Enki's head?
It's red or something.
Red. Folks, Google the Arnolfini portrait and add on the hashtag man with the watery man. He's melting like the Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
He's going through the watery experience. Wow. Right? In all the movies about the Stargate.
There's a blue person. Who's blue?
That's the woman pregnant. That's the pregnant Damkina. The woman in blue who is Virgin Mary. Damkina.
Okay.
Damkina. Virgin Mary does not mean she gave birth as somebody who never had sex. Virgamara in Greek means the woman of the 7th planet. And Jesus never calls her wife. He calls her woman, like Dr. Lessin calling Janet, woman. Let's go.
Woman.
Right? Woman. That's his wife. It's a term of endearment. That's his wife. Damkina is his wife. He marries his concubine like Mormons do. I guess they get a lot
Yeah.
of Mormon land. So there you go. That's the solution there, because you see in the candelabra the single flame of Isis, which is on the head of Baphomet in the 19th century image, right? The seated goat, Baphomet.
Wait, I'm looking for this. Okay, the candelabra has one candle.
One of Isis. The single flame of Isis is on the head of Baphomet. That's their sign.
Well, that's
But
interesting.
scholars don't know their Anunnaki, Dr. Lessin. They don't know their Anunnaki history, right? They don't know the sacred sexual secrets of the Knights Templar or the ancient Iranians. So forget the art scholars. They go with what their teachers taught.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that actually wound up in Inanna's bag of tricks is King Anu had her as his courtesan on Earth whenever he visited Earth, and so when she got her own fief in the Indus Valley, she brought all the practices she had learned into the temples.
That's right.
Yeah, some very interesting things. In the temple rituals, a young man that was getting trained would culminate his experience with the oldest toothless hag in the village, and really have the spirit of all women of the woman archetype come through and love him.
Yes. So if we go to the woman of the tree there, Janet, in my front lawn in Toronto, the image of that tree.
There we go.
Okay, so the secret was buried by the Knights Templar in 1244. They got off the mountain of Languedoc, and they went down the hill to this little church called Rennes-le-Château, where Dagobert was married, by the way, in 630, I think. He was married in that church. So they go in there, and an altar with Viking carvings on the legs. They put the manuscript of the history of Enki and Ninmah in the leg of that altar. It's found in 1890, more or less, by Béranger Saunière, the priest. And he finds the manuscript and he takes it to Paris, to the Church of Saint Sulpice, which has the golden line through the meridian through it that's in Dan Brown's novel Da Vinci Code. He goes there to get this thing decoded of what they're talking about. And so if we can just go back to the Shepherds of Arcadia painting before we go to this image. The Shepherds of Arcadia. There, now here. This is the painting that when Saunière went with the secret parchment being decoded, you use the knight's move, Dr. Lessin, uses the knight's move, 1 over and 2 down of a chessboard to get this crazy message that they decoded. Okay, but the message is more or less shepherdess without temptation. The paintings of Poussin, this is Poussin, and Tenier hold the key to peace. This horse of God, Cheval de Dieu, this horse of God, at midday, blue apples. This demon of a guardian, Cheval de Dieu. So this is what they're talking about here, the shepherdess. So here she is to the right. Now, doesn't that woman there in that pose remind you of the Arnolfini portrait?
Yeah.
In the Arnolfini portrait, if we look back, is Mary Magdalene, Ninmah, is she pregnant or not in that Arnolfini portrait? You can't tell. She's kind of holding something over the bun in the oven, right? It's the first Adam. She's a little overweight. Who knows? Here she is the same way. So my mother, who was trained in a convent in Montreal when she was a young girl by monks from France,
On the job.
she starts to translate this crazy, chessboard decoding that went on in the Church of Saint Sulpice, and she goes, "This is a lecture. This is a lecture. Here she is. I am the shepherdess. Not the shepherd, Jesus, right? I am the shepherdess. Do not tempt me like St. Anthony. Forget the paintings of Teniers and Poussin. Right. This is the phrases from 1890 that are found. This painting is about 1500. Forget the paintings. There's no time left. Amadi is there. At midday. At midday, I will get this. My mother goes, she's about 4 foot nothing, right? I will get the Cheval de Dieu. Un chevalier, Dr. Lessin, is like you, the highest minded guy, right? Worried about everybody's well being and the power and the money to do it. That's a chevalier. But a Cheval de Dieu, the horse's ass, right? My mother goes, this son of a bitch of a high priest, cardinal, or most likely the Pope. She says, I don't have time with the paintings. I am going to get that son of a bitch at midday. Blue apples is the end of it. But before I go there, in the painting, what they're pointing to is a phrase carved in this tombstone, et in Arcadia. Et in Arcadia. Arcadia. The R, Dr. Lessin, is bigger than any of the other letters in the phrase because R is the 18th letter of the alphabet. 18 is the number of Isis. And this phrase, et in Arcadia, this is Mary the Magdalene with three of the disciples who are in royal garb. They're shepherds, but they are in royal garb. Et in Arcadia ego. Arcadia, Janet, is the home of Jesus Christos in Verona, Greece. So, et in Arcadia, I am here, and I am also in Greece, proving that Enki, Jesus Christos, was at Rennes Chateau and was also in Greece as Jesus Christos.
I wanted to go back to what you said about Dagobert. There's a book called Dagobert's Revenge, and I never read it.
Janet, stop. There's nobody like you. Well, Dr. Lessin, maybe. There's no one like you. Dagobert's Revenge is Tracy Twyman.
Yes, I started the research her, and she's dead. So that led me to, oh yeah, she died mysteriously. She was only in her 30s, and that led me to the De Veres, which they're part of my ancestry, the De Vere clan, the dragon legacy. So Tracy was part of that group, and then I haven't had a chance to study it any further. But
wait, before we go there, stop. This is number 3 in real dialogue. The De Veres, my wife got a book from her friend north of Toronto. She was throwing it out, so we kept it. I don't know what this thing was. I started reading it to her in bed. We're sneaking, she's got her head on my shoulder. We're reading about the De Vere bloodline. The De Vere bloodline, the royal women of the De Vere line have magic yoni, magic clitoris.
Okay.
Edward III, and they married Edward IV, the bastard son, to make sure that their bloodlines went down through the Tudors and then down through the other lineages, Plantagenet and all the things going on there, right? We're reading through there, and I come across this painting, The Water Something, and in the De Vere book, and my wife goes, look above your head. There's the painting.
What? You'll have to send us a picture of this painting.
It's called The Water Lilies. That's Monet. The Water Nymphs. Water. I'll think of it in a second. It's in De Vere's book.
Yeah. So Melusine apparently married the De Vere. I have to go look at my tree again. Yeah. Well, so she married De Vere, and that's how. So De Vere say they're the oldest traceable bloodline in all of royalty, right? Which they go back to Melusine, and Melusine kind of disappears for a while there, but it comes out with Edward V's Elizabeth of York's mother. What was her name? Luxembourg. Something of Luxembourg. She was she's one that says, so they were accused of being witches. Those 3 generations, Elizabeth of York, something of Luxembourg, and then her granddaughter, Elizabeth Woodward, and then Elizabeth of York. Those 3 generations, they were accused of being witches.
And De Weerwolf. That's where De Weerwolf slur or smear comes from.
Okay.
It's not Lon Chaney, whoever that actor was with the hair. It's the De Veers.
Yeah, the De Veers.
Now we've established tonight that Melusine blood went into the De Veer women that could produce the Ormus molecule. And we'll get into that in a minute.
But they could do magic. They could change the weather. So in one of the scenes, they were coming across the channel to attack England, and they started the storm, and they wiped them all out. They wiped out the Spanish. So there's all these magical things that the De Veer women were accused of doing.
Moses going across the sea there, and suddenly the Roman chariots were wiped out suddenly.
Right.
And the weather changed.
And then De Veer shows up with Elizabeth I.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole story which I'm tracking down about Elizabeth had, well, they weren't quite bastards. She had a secret marriage. See, we're doing secret marriages stuff. Anyway, so I'm tracking that down. She apparently had a bunch of children because they always spawn this bastard line to cure their bloodline, their DNA, because they believe their DNA is so important, but maybe it is because it's magic. And what is magic? You have spirituality, and you have, they can bridge the worlds between consciousness, spirituality, magic, sex magic, and manifestation and creation.
In your opinion, you folks, so when I met you 10 years ago, you ran the tantric schools there in Hawaii.
Yes.
In your opinion, and it's a considered opinion, can't all women of the world ejaculate?
Dr. Lessin, what do you think? What's your thoughts on that?
Almost everybody that is capable, if she wants to, and is properly prepared, and it helps if she's been eating Ormus, of course.
But she has to be physically capable, like no damage to her.
No damage. Once you understand what the person is like physiologically, and where the internal parts of the clitoris are, and how to stimulate it, and how to stroke it, it's like, and the woman can relax and let go. Every woman is capable of it unless there's some kind of physical impairment.
So on the ancient Egyptian texts of David Wood's book called Genesis, Genesis, fantastic book, about $50. It's not cheap, but he says in there, Dr. Lessin, that on the 14th and 28th day of the 28-day lunar cycle, once she's linked to that 28-day cycle, it's not all fouled up by her cell phone schedule, right? She can produce this monoatomic atom from the 8 precious metals: gold, platinum, silver, iridium. There's 8 of them, folks. And what happens, they're found where? In the grapevine, because the grapevine goes down the deepest in the land. Bananas go on top, get some potassium, right? But the grapevines go down, which may have come from planet X, to pick up the 8 precious metals in the wine. It's also found in seawater. And so seawater fish, we can't drink the seawater, right, Dr. Lessin? But we can eat the fish. And what's Jesus Enki telling us to do? The taxpayers and the whores, everybody eat the fish and drink the wine to get the 8 precious metals into you. And then the magic begins to happen. Wow. So the Skene glands, Skene, Skene, I was just talking to a very successful doctor in Toronto in the health area. No idea what they were. They're the two tubes that lubricate. Now, when Miriam, when a woman is really, really aroused, or whatever, the word is spiritually alert, I think. Now, water comes through the crown, folks, and out the yoni. She can fill a vase in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've met people that have done it. Women have done it. I've met only very few people that are able to do this. That's my question. Can they all do it? You just said yes.
It's very interesting. Even some of our advanced practitioners, you don't even need physical stimulation. My colleague Charles Muir and his associate, they look at in each other's eyes across the room, and you could just feel the contact, and she would start squirting, having an ejaculatory orgasm just from the total merging of their spirits.
Very Russian thing with Russian women.
Yeah.
So, Janice changed the photo. This photo.
Well, I can go back.
Go back to the tree.
I'll stay on the tree.
All right. So, no, go back to Fatima. Go back to the painting of Fatima.
Okay.
So the Knights Templar, in this image that the parchment that they rescued from Languedoc, and it was found in the altar in Rennes-le-Chateau in 1890. My mother is contradicting the scholars Henry Lincoln and Lynn Picnic, who are both fantastic scholars. But my mother, from the ancient idiomatic French, right? If you say, Dr. Lessin, if you say, it's raining cats and dogs, a guy from Pakistan wants to sell you dog food. He has no idea you're talking about the weather, right? So my mother's translation of, I'm going to get that bastard, forget the paintings and the secrets of Da Vinci and Michelangelo, right? As an aside, Michelangelo, there are 2 Pietas. Did you know that?
Say some more.
There are 2 Pietas. One is in the Vatican, I think, but the other one's in Florence, where it was not too well known, but Jesus is sitting on the lap of his mother, his alleged mother, Vergamara, and he's got his leg slung over her lap. And to the artist, that meant that that's his wife. And of course, the Vatican cut the leg off from the knee down, so it wasn't so obvious. That's his wife.
Wow.
So, God, I lost my train of thought where I was going with that. So I'll come back. So we go on to this painting. To this phrase they had, that she's going to get this bastard of a pope herself. Forget the paintings. That's what it was. And the statues of Michelangelo. Michelangelo's statue of Moses. Google it, folks. In the Vatican, Rob, what's on Moses' head?
A crown?
2 horns.
No.
Now we're back to Tracy Twyman and Dagobert's revenge. And she said that 2 horns is not the devil necessarily. She is talking to the devil, Yahweh, because at Gospel John 8:44, Jesus says, "You Jews can't hear me. Your father, the father of Abraham, is a liar and a murderer from the beginning."
Yes, that's what he said. Yes, that's right.
The 2 horns, but it was Twyman, Janet, that said the 2 horns on Moses' head, the knowledge of Yahweh and Enlil comes from Planet X.
Oh, why does
Wow.
Why does Ninmah in this picture have horns?
Ah, stop it! Stop it! My eldest. Oh my! I have to go lie. I'll come back. I have to go lie down. I can't take any more jokes. My daughter, who doesn't believe anything I say, calls me when I showed her the painting. She calls my nose is dead. Look at her headdress. Look at her headdress, Dad. The two horns.
Right.
It's in my book. That's another very famous painting of that period. But I don't want to go too far away from the message from Mary from in the message that was found in the altar leg in Le Chateau of forget the paintings, forget the statues of Michelangelo. There's no time left. I'm going to get this bastard myself at high noon. And so on 1917, for 6 months in a row, on the 13th, except August, right? They put the children, the seers, in jail. Imagine that, Dr. Lessin. The Virgin Mary, there's no way she's getting through those bars. so they put the kids in jail in August. But every other month on the 13th, the woman appeared. And they were badgering those children so bad, they asked for a sign to the whole world. On October 13th, Black Friday, the same day that the Knights Templar are arrested in 1307, by the way, at high noon, she says in September, next October, on October 13th, at high noon, à midi, in the secret phrases, right? Shepherdess, Poussin, Tenier, the paintings, Cheval de Dieu, à midi, my mother goes, at high noon, Glenn, she will appear. My mother hadn't read any of the stuff I was doing. She's translating this cryptic phrase. And so at 12 o'clock on October 13th, 7,000 people were standing there with the three children in the pouring rain. And when nothing happened, everyone was scoffing at those children. My mother said, no, Glenn, high noon, when the sun hits the top of its arc of the day, 1:30. And if you look at the newspaper clippings of that report from many journalists that were there, at 1:30, the clouds part, right? And a silver disc, a UFO,
Right.
goes up and covers the sun and spins colors of the rainbow, right? The light, right? The light portals, the light body around the sun, the miracle of the sun. So here's the painting of Fatima, where she predicted this woman who appeared, predicted the next 70 years of modern European history, the coming of communism, right? The end of the First World War. This is October 13. The war ended, on Versailles Day, 11/11, the next year. The communism, right? Which was, I think, 11/9 of 2018. 1918.
Right.
There'll be a Second World War where the seer who became a nun, right? The two children, her cousins that were with her, the woman said, they're going to come to me with heaven. They both won. But the seer, Lucy, will live to the point of to the period of my second sign. In the meantime, she said, communism will come, World War will end. There'll be a great sign in the sky in 1930, which was the aurora borealis, of the Arctic Circle, came as far south as Spain, and Sister Lucy the seer could see it out her window of the convent. The Second World War will happen, and then 70 years from now, my Pope will come. And when John Paul II was shot, the third secret was something's going to happen to him. And the church never revealed it. They did a little bit, but not the real secret. My Pope will come. And folks, when John Paul II was shot, he was a great Marian scholar, but he had never read the writings of the seer of Fatima. And he realized it was him. But he had to consecrate the world, Rob, to who? Virgin Mary or Mary the Magdalene. The Knights Templar followed Mary the Magdalene as the biologist who created Adam and Eve. Vergamara only managed to deliver Eve. She didn't create those two beings. So the Pope makes the mistake of consecrating the world to Vergamara and not to Ninmah Mary Magdalene. And the prediction was that communism, watch this, folks, would go underground where it is most dangerous. The second sign appeared in my front lawn in Toronto. Go to the next picture of the woman in the tree. Can we zoom in there at all?
No. Well, let me see. No.
Let me
That's
see if I
it. That's
can
okay.
zoom in.
I can't zoom. Nope. Oh wait, let's see.
I
Zoom
don't
in.
know if I can zoom in, or I don't
Oh,
want to mess it
there. I
up.
did. I figured
Let me
it
see if I
out.
can.
Okay.
Now,
Can you
now,
see it?
Janet, I don't know how Dr. Lessin's eyes are, but so far, nobody in my experience in 50 years is as good as Janet's eyes. Dr. Lessin, you might be. But Janet, in the trunk of the tree, isn't that the
Oh, I
woman at
see.
Fatima?
I see.
Yeah.
I
You
see
see
her.
her hand there
Sure.
holding the rosary?
Yeah.
You see the hood over her, the cowl over her head?
Yeah.
Right.
There's the rosary. Go back to the picture of Fatima, the painting. This is the painting from 1929.
Okay. Whoops. Ah, there.
Zoom in on the
Let's see.
left hand one with all the light. It's the best one. There. You see the hand, the hood over her head, the cowl, the
Right.
drape, her cape's going down the side. It's carbon copy appeared to my mother,
Right.
who had the correct translation of the parchments from the Knights Templar from King Solomon's table, buried in Rennes-le-Château. She made the correct statement, the correct translation, and then go back to the tree.
Wait, how do I get out? Okay. Whoops. There we go.
Now you have to zoom in, folks. On Holy Sabado, and I want to hear the Lesson's interpretation of this. It's that picture that on Easter Saturday, Oestre, 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 the egg, right? The egg. You see Mary Magdalene offering the egg to the Pope in many paintings. Okay.
Oh yes, that's right. The pink egg.
But usually a red egg, red being from star system Sirius, the red egg, the fertilized egg that we see in the Arnolfini portrait, putting the egg into the womb of Cana, right?
Yeah.
My mother's out in the front lawn. I'm home in Toronto for the Easter weekend, and she calls me. Smoke came around the tree, and then this image was left there. And 2 months later, I saw the painting of Fatima in a book that matched exactly when the smoke cleared. Easter Sabado, her holy day is Saturday. So
Wow.
So here we have Asherah of King Solomon. But without this tree image, Dr. Lessin, you cannot go back through Dodona, Jesus Christos, Athena, back to Solomon's Asherah, back to Sumer, because the Catholic Church had destroyed all the connections.
It's like a crop circle in a tree.
Yes, but this crop circle is tied exactly to Enki, Ninmah, and Enki and Ninmah's appearances, folks. Because when they left out of Jerusalem, they were kicked out, right? That little whore, the Magdalene, who took off with Osiris's lover, right? She took off with the assassin, remember? Set Enoch, Enki. They took off out of there, leaving him with no penis, no girl, no penis. You got no hope of getting a girl, probably, right? So they take off.
But those Anunnaki, they can put things back on.
Well, I don't. What, Lorraine Bobbitt? Remember Bobbitt in California?
Yeah. They know how to put back on heads and raise the dead, and yeah.
Well, but the royal couple took off to where? They took off to Peru, right? To Lake Titicaca. They took off to Mexico, Quetzalcoatl, and the woman of the Virgin of Guadalupe. They took off to China. And if you folks can Google Fuxi, Fuxi, 2 words, Fuxi and Nuhua, you'll see the serpentine Melusine type, right? Founders of China, Fuxi, Xi. And the Jesuits, in my book, I found a reference. The Jesuits said that Fuxi is Zeus. right? Enki appearing to the Chinese culture because he was given permission by the Council of Nine to repopulate China as Fuxi, and then he appeared in Egypt, of course, as Set Enoch, and in Peru as I forget his name now. Manco Capac. Right? Blue eyes, like they came out of the water, like Titicaca. Blue eyes, long hair, right? Handsome guy, Prince of Peace, King Solomon, Prince of Peace, right?
Right.
So the whole when you watch the epithets, when you know that Dr. Lessin is an archaeologist, right? Then you just follow his work. Never mind, he changes his name because he's going to different languages. Whatever lesson is in ancient Romanian, it doesn't matter. He's going to do archaeology or do his Anunnaki, whatever it is. So you follow the epithets: Prince of Peace, King of Righteousness, Lord God. All these epithets, we can follow the people all the way through history. Woo!
All right. Let's see. Was that our last one? Yeah, I think
I was going to say, yeah, we got to finish up soon. Let me put it this way: is there any closing thoughts anybody wants to give before we finish up for tonight?
Do you have a question, Rob?
I would just say that all of these characters that we're discussing that seem like they're other people are resonating with parts of ourselves. There's nothing in the universe that's alien to any of us because it's all within us as well as without.
I wanted to say I was Googling pictures of Enki, and the AI is really...
Oh, wait.
I think they're trying to... These are all AI-generated images.
Back to the stage. I thought we were done. Okay. Right. Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. He reminds me of a Ahura Mazda there.
Right.
You know? Because he has the wings, and he looks like a Persian. Or, you know.
Right.
Ahura Mazda, who sent the Dravidians through India with Jew money to pick up the sacred sex rights at ports of call. Excellent, Rob. Ahura Mazda is Enki. Go.
Right. Anyway, it's just interesting that all these images are coming out from AI. It's like they're trying to tell us something. But, it's like, here's the long-haired people, and that comes down through Jesus. Now, was that a style, a fashion statement, or are they depicting a lineage?
This is pretty amazing that you were able to do this, Janet. Like that the AI generated these images. It makes me think, like, what are they programming in the AI? They know that, it's amazing.
Yeah, I was just blown away. I did this late last night. I was like, what? And then, then I was looking at Jesus, and it looks like an Anunnaki, right? Look at the...
I think, Rob, Enki's about to return from Saturn, and they're preparing us for his arrival.
Yeah.
You think that's what's going on?
Well, yeah. When you watch, just see all the hot show, like how hot Danica Patrick had Billy Carson on. Dr. Lessin, you guys know Billy Carson?
Oh yeah.
You would swear on Danica Patrick. Reading from my book 4, word for word, he's not, but it just shows you a man I never met in Miami came to the same conclusion, except they won't put the puck in the net, as we say in Canada, right? They won't say Enki was Jesus. He was a wise guy, read from the Emerald Tablets. Okay, now you've got Mauro Boglino, the Vatican translators, saying the Bible has UFOs in it. They kind of screwed up the translation. And Paul Wallace, the Reverend from Australia, saying the same thing. Vatican scholar, Billy Carson, Paul Wallace, right, all saying there are aliens and UFOs. Then you've got the U.S. Congress saying that there are UFOs. They're going to expose them. They've passed an act to this. Then you have astronomers from Caltech Michael Brown and Anton Badajan, proving mathematically that planet X is outside Pluto. The same way they predicted the coming of the finding of Neptune and Uranus. They use math first, then they go and find it. Folks, it's all around us. This planet X, Anunnaki, Jesus thing, but he's going to try to fool us, Dr. Lessin. And we've spoken about this before, that he's a great guy. But Dr. Lessin was the one who said he didn't give us the full download. So the great guy's going to show up with roses, the whole wreath on his head. But what they wanted the whole time, folks, was an AI soldier, part human, part AI, to fight the ongoing wars in the Aryan star system. And look what we have now. We all want to be Luke Skywalker, right? All the video games we're playing, etc. If you want to go to war, knock yourself out. I'm for the planet of peace.
Right. Same here.
I agree.
So
I think that's right. Okay. I think that's really well said.
What a great night! What a great night! More illuminations from Janet Lessin.
I don't know. I just connect the dots. I mean, I spend hours just looking at all this stuff and reading the literature. I can make about 50 of these. I go into more depth, but yeah, you set me down a rabbit hole. You said here's the image.
You can't know. I was reading about. I was studying the De Veres. You and I and Dr. Lessin have never talked about the De Veres. I only have one book of it, and you're nailing it alongside of my history. And that's if you folks on the call tonight. If you start doing the work, start putting one foot in front of them, start getting books and read and go forward, you will be led on the greatest journey that you could ever imagine.
Right.
But you've got to start.
If you just look at a flame and open your mind and just be there for a while and be with it and just reflect upon yourself reflecting and reflect upon yourself reflecting upon yourself. Eventually, you'll identify with everything that is and isn't and flickers in and out simultaneously. And the whole idea of time will be gone too. It's all there. And Christ is coming within you, and so is the devil too. It's all there. We're all there. We're all of it.
Get ready. Get ready.
So people say, when is Enki returning? And he never left, and he's always with us.
Well,
and never with us both.
Janet, Karen McDonald in the chat. She said she did 5D events with you guys before.
Oh yeah. Hi. How you doing?
Yeah, she's in the she's amazing. She does my show too.
Yeah, we've been to a lot of events. Glad we'll have to get out there maybe next year. Maybe this year. Who knows? I don't think I'm traveling.
How did you? I'd love to know how you guys all knew Gerald. Like, did you? I don't know if Glenn knew Gerald, but I know the Lessons knew Gerald really well. Like, you knew of him, right? Were you guys planning on working together?
Yeah, Janet was arranging some kind of a.
We were going to do a conference and have other people and make it all. I mean, this is around the year 2000. Maybe 2001, 2, 3, something like that. Maybe 4 or 5. Yeah. And then it fell through. So we, didn't make it happen. But they're great. We knew him.
Yeah, that was before
Uh-oh, we just lost you.
Wow, that's amazing.
Anyway, everybody's quoting Gerald like he's really fondly remembered. I see him all over the place still. So that was sad.
Well, the message is about time. I
agree.
I think Enki is going and coming back, folks. The Stargate is open. It opened, in my opinion, it opened in 2013. It's a long story why I believe that, but you can go and come back, go to Saturn and come back, and no time has gone by.
Right.
I was in a donut shop on my way to Sweden to go on this trip that I was research trip in 2011 in anticipation of 2012, and the woman said to me, "Well, I said, who's leading us in this trip?" She goes, "The Black Madonna herself." I said, "What? There goes $3,000. What? The Black Madonna's leading us?" Yes. I'm at the donut shop before I get on the airplane to go over. A spiral, folks, came out of my head. I'm a builder of houses. Okay? I'm a concrete and bricks and mortar guy. Spiral came out of my head. It's wobbling around. So I shot it over Newfoundland to Sweden. Boom. She types, "Where are you?" I said, "I think I'm on your sofa." Her black cat just jumped a mile. I walked into her apartment the next day in downtown Sweden, and there, Dr. Lessin, on the wall was a photo of a yogi from India, cross-legged, with the same spiral coming. Yeah. And so I was in Toronto, and I was in Sweden, right, on her sofa.
Right. You were bilocating.
I was on the same time.
That's right.
I mean, it happened to me, the contractor. It could happen, and I think it's happening all over the world. It's the people, you know, Rob may not have somebody they can tell. My lumber guy, after 10 years of buying lumber, tells me out of nowhere, he gets out of his body at night and flies around the bedroom. I don't tell anybody, and you're telling me? Like, this is happening all over the world, but there's no common depot to put the common experience.
Yeah. In every society, people talk to their departed beloveds. There's no society where people don't talk to their ancestors and their ancestors' ancestors.
Yes.
And we're all, you know, and that's some of the Marianne Williamson has these wonderful ceremonies where we look at the apparent other, like I would look into a Palestinian man's eyes and, you know, and say, forgive me for anything my ancestors and colleagues may have done to you, your ancestors and your colleagues, and I forgive you. And we are one. I love you.
Right.
Yes. So the time of great magic.
Glenn.
Yes.
Karen wants me to ask you about the clan mothers. She's from Canada as well. She's a clan mother.
I know Perry McDonald. Go ahead. Go.
She just wanted me to. She said, "Ask Glenn about the clan mothers."
Well, it's a very broad topic. They come in tutti frutti. They come in all flavors. Some are more forgiving. Some are warrior types. You know, it's all over the place. But it's definitely an assertive energy to get the resources of Mother Earth back in the hands of the people and out of the corporation. That's what's common, right?
You know, Ninmah among the Hopi is a white buffalo woman who is the particular guardian of humanity. And the Anunnaki have saved us a number of times. They Hopi and Zuni call them the Ant people, the Anunnaki. So it's Ninmah again here. And we know that Enki has a home under Mount Shasta. They're around.
And people should know in the Grand Canyon are the biggest pyramids in the world, because that was the source of the black-headed people who went to Ireland as the Afraics. Oh, the Africans are here. No, the Afraics from Colorado are in Ireland looking for slaves, right? The first European slaves came out of Ireland at the hands of the Afraics, the black-headed people. And then that went through Atlantis. It went across Giant's Bridge from Ireland to Sweden. The Sanskrit language of Gaelic and Swedish went to the temples of Tibet. That's why there's Swedish names on those temples. And then the wise men came from the east. No, it went from Ireland to Sweden to Tibet and back to Jerusalem. The knowledge came off of Atlantis. It was slid down to become Antarctica, which is now being revealed. And it slid down according to who? Albert Einstein in the book called Earth Shifted Crust. Oh, what did that moron? He's not a geologist. So there you go. Who knows? It's going to be a great year coming up.
Very exciting.
I think so.
Yes.
I think it's going to be one of the best years. Yeah.
A lot of trauma.
Well, do you guys want to tell everybody where they can find you? And sorry,
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you guys want to tell everybody where they can find you? And we'll finish up for tonight. And thank you so much for doing this. Whoever wants to go first.
Our best website is enkispeaks.com. We have about a dozen books now. Please take a look. It's on all of our websites. And my website is dragonattheendoftime.com. And I'm looking for that dragon in my DNA and your DNA. Where's the dragon? So I have a story, but I won't tell it on the show about meeting the dragon.
The meteor that hit the Yucatan 60 million years ago was a dragon.
Yes. Mud Fossil University. There's a dragon across the top of Africa. This is the land that we're walking on are these giant beings and dragons. There was a battle in space, and the dragons would fight, and they'd fall to the earth. They crashed all along the East Coast. Go to Mud Fossil University and look at his YouTubes. They're fascinating. He gets DNA samples of these creatures, like the giants would just sit down and they would fossilize. They would turn into stone. So he finds these things and he goes and he gets DNA. It's humanoid DNA. And
that's right.
It's real living creatures.
And apparently they're waking up. They've been unconscious. And they're waking up. So what? I mean, is it true? I don't care, Dr. Lessin. It's great fun. It's better than watching.
So the Anunnaki were digging the veins of gold, and they were in great big veins, and they were the veins inside the bodies of giants. Enoch was a mile high, they say in the Bible.
Yes.
So that the gold, we all have gold in us, but if after we disintegrate, it concentrates in the bones, and so when people are digging veins of gold in Africa, they're digging the veins of the bodies of deceased people.
Wow. Recycling the gold.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
your granite countertops and stuff. It's all it's sliced beings, and you can see their bone and their blood, and I'm carving on my countertop. And go, oh my God, this was a living being.
Grandma, is that you?
Right. Is that you in there?
Anyway, my books of Isis you can get at authorhouse.com. And there's 5 books. 1 and 2 are on disease, the actual misdigestion of food that causes all the diseases. Number 3 is on sacred sex and Amrita, which these 2 handsome couple taught me about out of nowhere. Remember the Amrita videos we did?
Yes.
And proved my principles of these people from Hawaii. I'm in Canada that I hadn't really met. I'd never met before. We met. And they now come out with the Amrita. Book 3. Book 4 is the Black Madonna, the actual history of Anunnaki. And book 5 is jammed packed with the ancient symbolism. Are we being lied to? Is book 5?
Yes. Of course.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And have a good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. All right. Good night. I'm having bad internet problems. Okay.